Good evening once again. I want you to know, fellow Zimbabweans, that it becomes clear at the end of the day that if you are fighting for the liberation and freedom of Zimbabweans, you are not just dealing with ZANU PF and Idi Mnangagwa, but ultimately you are dealing with Xi Jinping and the CC party in China. The Chinese have always sponsored ZANU even during the time of the war against Smith. Though it was Lancaster House, essentially the British and the Americans, who put a stamp to the end of the white minority rule and brought about a black majority rule led by Robert Mugabe. It didn't take more than 20 years for Robert Mugabe's relations with the United Kingdom to sour until he had to go back to his old Eastern friends, the Chinese. When Robert Mugabe began his Look East policy, he opened the floodgates of Zimbabwe to the Chinese. When Robert Mugabe inherited the country from the white minority rulers, it was a well-oiled economy, infrastructure well built. He started well as well with improving notable in education, but he deteriorated over time, failed to fight against the ASAP, and failed even in the 90s as the industries of Zimbabwe began to decline severely, causing a spike in unemployment rate and a beginning of an exodus of Zimbabwean workers into laboring countries, notably South Africa and Botswana, and also Britain and USA. Take a note, not China and Russia. But nonetheless, the Robert Mugabe regime has opened the gates for the Chinese to rape a virgin Zimbabwean land which was farmed by British whites and mined by the British and whites appropriately, following labor laws and environmental laws. When the Chinese came, they threw away labor laws, threw away environmental laws, and threw away even the very human dignity of the people whose land they are mining and enjoying and raping. Though the people of Zimbabwe keep on crying, the Chinese keep on raping us. President Emerson Mnangagwa has been evicting people in Gutu district to make way for whatever it is that he is making way for, which is obviously some business dealing which he does with his foreign friends who are raping our land. It becomes clear beyond reasonable doubt that us as poor Zimbabweans need to be astute politically and understand the dynamics at play and know that when Mnangagwa says he's the police, he's the army, he's the CIO, we cannot do anything to him. He also did not tell you that he is also friends with the Chinese and the Russians. And therefore, which one of you Zimbabweans can stand against the might of Vladimir Putin? Hmm? I'm asking you a question. Which one of you Zimbabweans are able to go and train in Mozambique to be able to withstand the Chinese military? Because China is now the landlord of Zimbabwe. Xi Jinping is your new pharaoh. China has been planning this in the 1970s. You see, when Russia and China were sponsoring and supporting ZAPU and ZANU in the 70s, they were not doing it out of the goodness of their heart, but they were doing some long-term investments so that they will be able to come and reap. And right now, they're not only reaping, they are raping my land. Because you Zimbabweans do not have any power of your own, I therefore advise you to leverage on the power of another. The United States military has been battling competition against the wayward Chinese Communist Party that wants to take over the whole world and bring about a global communism which is characterized by an erosion of human rights. We see the erosion of human rights in China, the oppression of the Chinese people in China. They might have succeeded economically, but the human rights record of the Chinese CCP in China is terribly weak. China is aligning itself with also other rogue regimes like that of Iran. Iran, whose sole goal is for the destruction of Israel and all Jewish people around the world. Do you know why? Because Israel and Jewish people are the source of good and the source of human development across the whole world. And therefore, Jewish people who promote good governance are an impediment to the Chinese and the Iranians who want to create a global order that is characterized by this undermining of human rights, thereby creating landlords or serfs. This Chinese communism that China want to bring to the whole world will be reminiscent of the days or years of Mao Zedong. You could say China is doing well, but I told you, economically, on paper it is, but we don't even trust the figures coming out of China. But the ordinary Chinese citizen is oppressed, and the Chinese citizens that are not like the the Chinese people that you know, the ones with slanted eyes, the other type of Chinese, the darker Chinese, and the Muslim Chinese are suffering. A whole region in China where there is Muslim Chinese, the Chinese government is oppressing them and putting them in jail for ever voicing against the government in Beijing. That they are Western ZANU-PF. In Tibet, they have been oppressing the Tibetan leader and the Tibetan people because Tibet is in the highlands of China where most of Chinese rivers start, and therefore they have been colonizing Tibet because they want the waters of the Himalayas and that control of the Himalayas waters, and hence they've got a problem with the Indians as well. I'm trying to create a picture of showing you that China is a menace, and if it is allowed to take over the world, it will be a global menace that none of us will be able to curtail. It needs to start now. It needs to start with the United States security agents beginning to work hard on the Zimbabwean issue. It's not just about me and my poor suffering Zimbabweans, but it's also about the maintenance of a global order in a global system that ensures human dignity and progress of all human beings going forward. China's dominance in Asia, as we see by its moves in the South China Sea and its constant threat to Taiwan, and the way it is enveloping itself around India to suffocate India, and also how it has made great inroads in Africa. Taking a look at what China is doing in Zimbabwe and in the DRC, where we see that human rights are severely disrespected. The leaders, the black political leaders of these African countries who have aligned themselves with China, are doing quite well, but their people are in penury and in slavery. Imagine China overtaking United States and Britain, and with its friends Iran succeeding to take Zimbabwe's uranium and building nuclear weapons to fight Israel, to destroy Jewish people, to destroy United States, to destroy Europe. There will be nothing holding them back to start a full force global communism, which is a global oppressive system. Their friends, Iran, whose idea of Islamic religion whose interpretation of the Holy Quran is something that will not be loved by any Muslim people around the world. Muslims will be advised to take the route of Saudi Arabia, which has been able to become a global citizen in a world where there is a multiplicity of faith. The Islamic religion is a beautiful religion that has got beautiful followers that have been able to build communities and sustain communities under the guidance of the Quran left by Prophet Muhammad. However, the Iranian interpretation of the Holy Quran is something that all Muslims should be afraid of. Should Iran be allowed to destroy Israel, to destroy the United States, and to destroy Europe, and to destroy the global peace that we enjoy at the moment? That is why it is very necessary for some of us who understand, who keep on supporting Israel, even against the Iranian propaganda of using Hamas and using the people in the Gaza Strip as a weapon against Israel, so as to put Israel defense forces in a corner so that they can no longer be able to defend themselves. But should they defend themselves, they will be Gaza women and children that are on the way. And when they die, the propaganda machine of Iran picks up and broadcasts to the whole world to say that Israel army is genocidal. Therefore, they therefore use that propaganda to gain support against Israel all over the world, and including working with their other allies that are anti-Israel, just like the ANC-led government in South Africa that has taken Israel to court. ANC is a corrupt political party, a political system that also is tending to be against Western powers, because Western powers encourage good governance and accountability. Corrupt politicians, no matter their faith persuasions, generally do not like accountability. Accountability brings in the spotlight what they fear the most, that they will be exposed, that they are not all about public service or public good or public decency, but they are cowards who are actually bullies, who bully people using the political systems. Political systems of the world, countries like Zimbabwe, are not led by kings. They are constitutional republics with public representatives who lead their people for the common good, which is what Israel and the United States and our former colony Britain stands for. Good governance is a hindrance to dictators, because by and large, dictators are thugs and bullies. I'd like to put it to you that Idi Mnangagwa is a thug and a bully who lies when he says that he is a public representative, when he actually is using that public office and even the legitimacy of the nation state. Zimbabwe is a nation state, constitutional nation state that is recognized by all countries in the world, including the United States and also the United Nations. But what the countries in the world do not recognize, that Idi Mnangagwa is not a public representative. He is an abuser of power, and he is a bully. Because he is a bully, he runs the country as if the land of Zimbabwe is his personal property. He dishes out to himself, his family, and his foreign friends, notably the Chinese and the Russians, and also the Belarusians. Rogue elements in global politics that do not seek to see the humanity improve. They want to take us to the Middle Ages. Ladies and gentlemen, China, Russia, Iran, Belarus, ANC taking turns to rape Zimbabwe must be stopped by the removal of Idi Mnangagwa. We need to be resolute. We need to be stern. We, as those who support a global order that supports goodness, good governance, respect of all human rights, not just some human rights, respect of all human lives, for all human lives matter, not just those of the connected few, or in Zimbabwe, those of Idi Mnangagwa and Benevake, which is really his family and relatives and his classmates or former classmates or his drinking buddies. If you don't drink with him, if you don't play with him, if you're not from his rural home, if you're not his child, even though you're born in Zimbabwe, there is no future for you. There's no place for you in Idi Mnangagwa's Zimbabwe. The point I'm trying to drive at here is that the menace, which is Idi Mnangagwa, is not just a Zimbabwean problem, but he is fast becoming an international problem as well. With him aligning himself with the Iranians, the enemies of Israel, it is only a matter of time that the Iranian regime begins to use Harare just like it is using Hamas against Israel. Oh, Israel, do not take me lightly. Do not take this word lightly. When in Iran is dealing with Hamas, you know what they're doing. They are after Israel. When Iran comes to Uganda and Zimbabwe, where both of those countries have uranium and Zimbabwe has got US and British sanctions, don't think they're going there to teach each other Shona and Arabic. No, they're talking uranium. You've got to take that to the bank and you've got to open your eyes wide, or Israel. Because if you ignore me, you will wish you listen to me years from now when you are wondering how did Iran gain an edge over Israel. We do know that global satellites, most of them, are facing Iran, the country, to ensure the security of Israel and that Iran does not engage in its nuclear program. But how many global satellites are looking at Iran's new friends, Idi Mnangagwa, in Zimbabwe? Let me give you something to think about. Elon Musk's Starlink is not allowed in Zimbabwe. Anything to do with space focusing on Zimbabwe is a matter of national security that Idi Mnangagwa had to fire Chris Mutsvango, one of his cabinet ministers, because one of his accusations is that the son of Chris Mutsvango was selling Elon Musk's Starlink products. What is it that the Zimbabwean government is hiding from space observers? What else is Idi Mnangagwa doing in the land of Zimbabwe? If he's not against the Zimbabweans who are being evicted day in, day out, and he's having friends with the Russians and the Iranians, what do you think the Iranians are planning to do in Zimbabwe or Israel? Wake up and smell the coffee. Israel's security is paramount to global peace, to the global order, to maintain the order of human dignity, promotion of human rights, and human excellence. Mnangagwa and the way that he is running the country, the way he has become a landlord of the nation of Zimbabwe and becoming friends with the enemies of Israel, is a threat to the global security system. He who listens to this message and take heed to it will prosper. He who ridicules it will find himself in a strange place 10, 15 years down the line. And you look back and say, only had we listened. Iran has repeatedly voiced that is one of its major goals is for the destruction of Israel and all Jewish people. And we can bet that everything that Iran does in Africa has got something to do with being anti-Israel. And anyone who is smiling with Iran must be looked at with the telescope. And if that person is Idi Mnangagwa and it does not want Starlink in Zimbabwe, it does not want space eyes on Zimbabwe, he should make the Israelites nervous and sleep with one eye open to make sure that Zimbabwe is not used as a breeding ground for terrorism. My name is Ngobani Zondo, and I am prepared to defend the glory of the God of Abraham, the God of Jacob, the God of Isaac, who is the God of Israel. The peace of this world was purchased by the precious blood of the Jewish man, Jesus Christ. And we must not allow Iran or China or Idi Mnangagwa to disturb global progress. The Judeo-Christian values that are espoused by nations that follow the leadership of the United States of America are what has brought about a sudden surge in globalization and industrialization. Now we're talking about the fourth industrialization, and even the humanity as a race needs to leap forward into a place of progress characterized by unity and accepting our differences and diversities, various diversities. China, Iran, and Russia wants to take us back to the Middle Ages. And as a Zimbabwean, I can only fight this world war from my little corner. Therefore, I call upon the global powers that be to help me fight my war against Idi Mnangagwa and the oppressive regime in Harare, so that not only will my people be free, but also Israel may be free, and the maintenance of the global peace and order, to ensure that Muslim people are safe all over the world, to save them from the lies and propaganda of Iran's sinful interpretation of the Quran. To fight the propaganda that Iran uses, and even now recently incorporating our historically friendly neighbors of the ANC. It is unfortunate that for us in ANC, the issue on Israel is a point of departure. There is no way we can agree on that topic. For we know that supporting Israel is supporting global prosperity, and being anti-Israel by following the propaganda of Iran is actually a hidden system of trying to defy good order, good governance, so that rogue, corrupt governments can destroy their own citizens without being checked by any system of good governance. China doesn't seek to lead a world whereby countries are accountable to some kind of law or formality. China believes that it has to do deals with other countries, and it says that it leaves sovereign states to do as they please, which really means that it, together with those sovereign states, abuse and rape citizens of people around the world. Therefore, you do not want a global leader like China going forward. You want a police. That is exactly what Washington and the United States stand for. The United States need to step up its role at being the global police. The United States and Britain need to ensure that Zimbabwe is on the right path away from the menace, which is China. I include the United Kingdom because Zimbabwe essentially was built by the British, and all of our systems are British empowered and British inspired. Even our people, when they leave Zimbabwe, they go and look for jobs in Britain, not in China. Our relationship with Britain goes a long way. Even our faith in Jesus Christ is actually an import from the British. The heavy duty, therefore, is on the British military to engage with the American military, and also for the security of Israel with the Israeli military, in order to ensure that global peace is secured by doing a simple thing: remove Idi Mnangagwa from power. My name is Ngobani Zondo, and I am leading from the front in ensuring that this world war is won in Zimbabwe and in our region. We need to secure the Indian Ocean as well. That's a topic for another day. For we have seen the Chinese and the Russians moving around our waters, and that is something to fear. But I guess we will have to deal with it when I'm president. Holy is the Lord. Have a great evening.